Northeast Tonight, brought to you by Oil India Limited, conquering newer horizons.
Hello and welcome to Notice Tonight, the show that decodes the region. Ladies and gentlemen, the nation seems obsessed of late with certain terminologies, some of them being National Register of Citizens or NRC, Citizenship Amendment Act or CAA, and now National Population Register or NPR. There are people who are either opposing these moves of the union government or supporting them. Irrespective of whether one is a supporter or opponent of government initiatives like the CAA, the issue of citizenship or nationality has become India's hottest talking point this year end. The only thing that's going on is all-round confusion. For 5 years, 50,000 government employees in Assam did nothing but worked in preparation or in preparing an NRC that cost Exchequer rupees 1,500 crore. Then when it was published, the government rejected it, saying it was an incorrect NRC. Then we heard Union Home Minister Amit Shah say in Parliament and outside that there would be a nationwide NRC and Assam would be a part of it. Suddenly thereafter, we heard our Prime Minister Narendra Modi announcing at a Delhi rally that there was no plan for a nationwide NRC and that there was no discussion at all on such a thing during the 5 years of his government. The doubts on this issue had hardly cleared when the centre sanctioned an amount of rupees 3,941 crore to be precise for the updation of the existing population list or the National Population Register. Assam will not be covered in the new NPR that is coming up next year, because the state had just had the NRC prepared. What's going on? Is the National Population Register a standalone exercise meant to come up with a list of residents in this country, not necessarily only citizens? The union government has categorically denied that the NPR and the NRC are not going to be linked. But many are unwilling to believe this. But why? These people feel that the NPR is the first step to an NRC. Many argue that both the NPR and the NRC have to be carried out simultaneously. If carried out separately at different points of time, this verification can run into roadblocks as people may move from one area to another, making verification difficult. Many therefore say it is reasonable to expect that the NRC will be implemented along with the NPR in 2020. The centre is saying no. Only NPR and no NRC. What then is the reality, and why are we not believing the Prime Minister when he's saying that there will be no nationwide NRC? And why should we not believe our Home Minister when he says that NRC and NPR is not going to be linked or are not linked? To discuss the rather tricky subject, I am joined from New Delhi by former Union Home Secretary Mr. G.K. Pillai. In Tinsukia, I have senior advocate Arup Barbara. From Dibrugarh, I am joined by Professor Akhil Ranjan Datta of Guwahati University. Political analyst Shyamkanu Mohanta is shortly joining me, along with Professor Sutimala Dwara, who is with me at the studios, professor from Handy College. And advocate Syed Burhanur Rahman is with me in the studios in Imphal. From Imphal, I am joined by Dr. Arambam Noni, assistant professor at the DM University. And in Shillong, I have Dr. Prasenjit Biswas from the Northeastern Hill University. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Notice Tonight. I'm going straight to Mr. G.K. Pillai in New Delhi. Mr. G.K. Pillai, the government has clarified many things, that there will be no nationwide NRC. None other than our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has said so. There will be no nationwide NRC. That the NPR, National Population Register, will have no links with the NRC, that is said by the Union Home Minister. Yet, people do not seem to be convinced. What's going on, Mr. G.K. Pillai?
I think the confusion has arisen primarily because for quite some time now and in Parliament, the Union Home Minister as well as other BJP leaders have been talking about both the CAA and then the NRC following. Very clearly, even the President's address to both houses of Parliament talked of the NRC being implemented in India.
Right.
So there is this, that if the Union Home Minister makes a statement in Parliament, then it obviously has the weight of the government. Subsequently, of course, the Prime Minister clarified that there has been no discussion on NRC in the Cabinet or in Parliament.
Yeah.
I think that is partly true because the President's address would have been approved by the Cabinet. And if mention of NRC is there, that means the Cabinet has approved that also. So there is therefore an element of confusion in the minds of people as to what exactly is the NRC only deferred, or is the government going to completely drop NRC. I think if the government comes out with a statement saying that we are no longer going to do an NRC, I think that would possibly calm things down.
Right. Mr. Pillai, what should the government do? You had been the Home Secretary. You have faced this situation. The last National Population Register was prepared around that time when you were the Home Secretary. Now, what should the government do in such a situation? How can the government clear the air? Because the people are confused and even agitated.
See, I think first, of course, let me just say that the National Population Register, which issue came up when in the UPA and when I was the Union Home Secretary, it actually followed the 26/11 attacks, and when the 2011 census data was also available, it was decided to set up the National Population Register, and we actually did the identity cards based on this as a pilot project in all the coastal villages all over India, right from West Bengal to Kanyakumari to Gujarat. At that stage, the issue of also Aadhaar came in. And then it became an issue whether you needed Aadhaar was better or the National Population Register was more effective. And I think at that time, initially, it was NPR was for half the country and Aadhaar for the other half, and they said we'll test and see how it goes. But then Aadhaar took off. It possibly was marketed much better than the NPR. And you had the Cabinet Committee on Aadhaar itself under the UPA. And finally, Aadhaar therefore finally became the means of identity of the people, proof of identity for all the Indians and others who are residing in India. And therefore, the NPR, which took off simultaneously with Aadhaar, actually because of lack of funds and so on, it sort of literally, I wouldn't say it died, but it sort of went into hibernation as Aadhaar then became available to all the people in India.
Right.
So I am therefore a little surprised that now you are again coming back to NPR, because NPR is actually would just be a duplication of all the money that you have spent on Aadhaar.
Okay, whether it is going to be a duplication or not, we'll have to wait and watch. That is what the question a lot of people are asking. Mr. Arup Barbara, joining me, senior advocate, joining me from Tinsukia. Mr. Arup Barbara, Mr. G.K. Pillai, the former Union Home Secretary, was saying that already the Aadhaar was prepared, the National Population Register was already there earlier, but now there may be new questions asked. What is going on? Because our Prime Minister has clarified that there will be no nationwide NRC. Still, people are finding it difficult to believe. The Home Minister has also clarified now that there is no immediate talk of the National Register of Citizens. Then suddenly we heard that the government is coming up with a National Population Register. Many people are saying that that will be linked to the NRC, but the government has once again clarified and made it very clear that there will be no link of the National Population Register with the NRC. My question is, why is the discourse only on citizenship? Is there some confusion even within your mind?
You see, when the people will be confused if the government itself is confused, it appears that the Narendra Modi's government, with Amit Shah as its Home Minister, itself is confused, and they are talking about different things at different junctures. To talk about this census, it is essential. Decennial census, it is essential,
Right,
but
right.
it has to be published, not like last time, not like last occasion. 2011 census, I think the report was published in 2015 or 16. It should be published immediately 1 or 1.5 years thereafter. Government should be, machinery should be prompt enough to publish the decennial census. So census is a must. Now to talk about the other registers. One is NRC, one is Assam-centric NRC, and one is this population register. Now the government must not be confused by sheer number in the parliament. They must not try to bulldoze one register after another register. After all, both the NRC and the population register are governed by the basic parent act of Citizenship Act 1955.
Right.
And to talk about the preparation of NRC, it is also governed by the Citizenship Registration and Identity Cards 2003 rules. So far as 2003 rules are concerned, in Assam, it has got a specific provision relating to Assam, taking the cut-off date as 25th of March 1971, and on that basis the Assam register, Assam NRC was prepared. Of course, it was monitored by Supreme Court, but Supreme Court didn't make no rules. It is the government who makes rule under the rule-making power.
Right.
And therefore, under 2003 rules, Assam NRC was framed, rightly or wrongly. It may be
Yes.
it may contain certain percentage
absolutely.
of errors, but
Absolutely.
it is a document to be preserved. It is a document to be rectified in future.
So-
it is a document to be acted upon in future.
Okay,
Now,
I'll come back.
it will be, yes, please.
Yes, I'll come back to you. These are the opening remarks. Professor Akhil Ranjan Datta, you see, why question is, lot of people are asking, lot of people are finding it difficult to understand as to why you need so many databases. Of course, why not? The government will say why not, and very rightly so, because the National Population Register was first prepared in 2010-11 in the wake of the 26/11 attack. Now the question is, what is the problem with the National Population Register? Why are people fearing that it will be linked to the NRC? After all, the Prime Minister has already cleared that there will be no NRC nationwide.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Wasbir?
yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, see, these confusions are, happening around because of the contradictions being made, contradictions being committed at the highest level of the government. It's not happening only in case of NPR. It also happened in case of NRC. For example, when NRC was prepared for Assam, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said it very categorically that the NRC has been prepared under the scrutiny, under the monitoring, under the complete jurisdiction of Supreme Court of India. On the other hand, to an extent, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for that matter, the state government of Assam has refused to acknowledge it. There was a contradiction. Ministry of External Affairs said it is a legitimate thing.
Yeah,
On
let's
the
not
other
go
hand,
into that. Come to the
state
point.
government,
Why is
some
this
of the
confusion?
ministers has said, so the confusion is for this. The people are not taking the government into confidence because they had witnessed a lot of contradictions on the part of the government itself. When the Prime Minister said, in the Ram Leela Maidan, Prime Minister said the NRC issue for the whole country was not placed in the parliament. He used the word placed in the parliament, but as has been said by Pillai, that was approved by the cabinet itself because it was mentioned in the speech of the president to the joint session of the parliament, and it was probably for 8 times the Home Minister of India mentioned it in the parliament. Now, Home Minister, when it mentioned in the parliament, and when the Prime Minister says that it has not been discussed, then it creates a lot of confusion. Therefore, I think there are confusion around. People are not taking the words either of the Prime Minister or, for that matter, words of the Home Minister
I'll come back
confidence,
to
or
you.
not taking as the truth.
Basic
so
point,
I think that is why this is not.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Basic point you are making is that people are still confused because, the Home Minister has said one thing and the Prime Minister sought to clarify, saying that there will be no NRC, and therefore people are a little bit confused at this point in time, or maybe a lot confused at this point in time. But let me come to you.
Just one line, if you allow me, just one line.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it is happening because, the government has dropped the idea of NRC for the country as a whole because of the resistance against resistance against Citizenship Amendment Act, not because of the, rethinking on the part of the government.
Okay. We'll have to wait and watch whether the government has actually dropped the NRC throughout the country. But for the time being, yes, we have to take our Prime Minister's words at face value. We have to take the Prime Minister's word and assume that there will be absolutely no NRC. That's what he has very categorically clarified. Sutimala Duara, you are a very frequent traveler. You go abroad almost every year. My question is, what is the, ultimate document, according to you, as a citizen of this country, to prove your nationality? Is it not your Indian passport?
Right. It is the passport, actually, that, because whenever you go out, definitely you will need the passport to prove your citizenship. But it seems that this is not the case everywhere. Because we, in our passport, Indian passport, we have the date of birth, we have the place that we are born, the address and everything in our passport, Indian passport. This is not so, I think, in UK. The British passport do not have this, that is the residence address and anything. So that is considered to be identity, identity document, but not as citizenship. But here, I think, because the passport, we have everything. But here I have to say again that sometimes you are talking about traveling, that is definitely, without the passport, you cannot travel.
And when you go abroad, your ultimate piece of document that proves the Indian nationality is the passport.
Yes.
That is the most important piece of document that an Indian can possess.
Because whenever I go to any hotel and whenever they'll ask for the passport.
Yeah, I'm coming to you, Dr. Arambam Noni and Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. But Burhanur Rahman, being a lawyer, we have another very senior lawyer in the program, Barbara. Burhan, as a lawyer, my question to you: do you think that once a citizen has a passport, an Indian passport, do you think you need to be questioned further to prove your citizenship, or do you think that is not the ultimate document?
See, as far as the passport is concerned, as far as Indian passport is concerned,
I'm talking about the Indian passport.
Yes, Indian passport is concerned. They have got all the relevant documents, including their parents' name, their address. In fact, if they have
date of birth,
place of birth, and also spouse's name in case of person is married. All the relevant documents are there. Now, what we are seeing now is that there is a lot of duplication of the various data.
Yeah.
Now we have Aadhaar card, we have voter list, now we have passport. At the top of it, now we have got the NRC as far as the Assam is concerned. Now we are hearing another piece of document which is now NPR. Now, as far as the NPR is concerned, of course, the confusion that co-panelists have already discussed about it. One thing that I would like to pinpoint here is that in the year 2018 and 19, there is a report by the Home Ministry, Ministry of Home Affairs, where they have specifically mentioned in chapter 15.1 subclause 4, they have specifically mentioned that this NPR is like a starting point of NRC. So therefore, I would like to say that they are trying to do this NRC, they have initiated the process of NRC through this NPR.
Okay, you are saying, your allegation is that it could be a possible backdoor entry. Yes. To the NRC. But viewers, let me be very clear. The Union Home Minister said yesterday in an interview to ANI that NRC and NPR and NRC is not going to be linked, and in the NPR there will be no documents. Nobody has to furnish any document whatsoever, and there will be no biometrics also. Now let me come to you, Dr. Arambam Noni, professor at DM University in Imphal. Dr. Arambam, you have heard that why should we need so many documents? Are you confused with this documentation process? why is a citizen of this country have to prove or come up with listing again and again and again in a different forms? Are you confused on this, or you are not confused anymore after the Prime Minister and the Union Home Minister has made their respective clarifications?
Mr. Wasbir, the question is not about confusion, I guess. The question is about how the politics of citizenship has been playing out in the country. First of all, for example, let's begin with a very important thing. For instance, this NPR question has actually said that it will not include Assam. Now the question in the Northeast and the NPR is going to be slightly different from what the mainstream scholars or the mainstream viewers would say. For instance, I think the question of having more than 4,000 kilometers of international border with the northeastern region explicitly talks about the question of illegal immigrants. Now the fear on NPR is just because of this question of already existing a lot of illegal immigrants in the region. Now the fear is that if the NPR is going to be played out in the fashion that has been talked about today, it looks like it is going to be a stepping stone towards NRC. Now, I just want to mention one important clause of 2003, the citizenship rules. For instance, it says that the local national register of Indian citizens shall contain the details information given in NPR.
Okay.
If 2003 rules says this, then I think NPR, of course, is going to be a stepping ground for future NRC.
Okay, we'll wait. Dr. Arambam, hold your thoughts. I'll come back to you. You are also in sync with what Advocate Burhanur Rahman is saying, that it could possibly lead to the NCR. But as a citizen of this country, we have to wait and watch because there are confusing statements. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. Yes, are you trying to say something, Arambam?
Yes, I'm just trying to say that the very title of the program that you have given, this is that nationality confusion peaks. I would say that this confusion probably looks like a deliberate confusion because the officials of the government of India has given 3 different statements. For instance, one minister would say that NRC is not going
that
to
is
be
why
done.
we know that. We know that. We hold your thoughts. Yes, we are discussing because of these different statements coming at different points of time. But we'll have to, at the end of the day, somebody has to clarify, and that clarification has come. My question is, why are people not willing to accept?
That's what I expect.
Let me go to Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, do you make any sense of what is going on actually? Dr. Prasenjit Biswas.
For now there is a kind of a pause in going towards NRC because of nationwide protest on CAA. Once this protest subside, then government will change its position and will say that NPR will lead to NRC. Now this entire confusion is deliberately created by government. Many people believe that it's a diversionary tactic. If we read at the Article 326 of the Constitution, which clearly defines who is an Indian citizen, and the Article 326 categorically says one who is a voter is an Indian citizen. So one who holds a voter's card is an Indian citizen. There cannot be any other opinion about it. Now if there is a conflict with an article of the Constitution and the Rules 2003 under which NPR is done, then the Article 326 prevails. So the entire legal architecture is deliberately sent off to a certain kind of a confounding confusion which should not have happened, and various ministers are talking in various ways. Prime Minister denying that there is any detention center, and Home Minister is saying that in the detention center we have kept only foreigners. Now we know in the case of Assam, many people who are kept in detention centers are manufactured foreigners. They are not really foreigners.
Okay, I request the producers to be careful with the audio.
Has been made paranoid about it.
All right, Prasenjit, hold your thoughts.
The entire country has gone into paranoia.
You are saying that the whole country has gone into paranoia. Mr. Arup Barbara, Mr. Arup Barbara, you know, what is the road ahead? What should have been a best approach? Do you think there should have been a discussion? Because these are all very sensitive issues concerning people's nationality, citizenship. We have now got the Citizenship Amendment Act passed. There is a countrywide uproar. My question is, the government has a point. Government is saying that this is because of misinformation, you know, particularly by the opposition parties. My question is not that. My question is, do you think it would have been better had there been a consensus or there has been a discussion on these issues, debates before moving with such kind of initiatives?
Yes, I exactly try to reply very specifically to your question. Why so many types of exercise, registration exercises in this country of 125 crore populace? Why so many exercises of registration? Other NRC, NPR.
Why is the audio low?
Voters list, NRC, Assam, light. I don't know, I am hearing you.
Yes.
I am hearing you. I am hearing you.
Yeah.
So NPR is virtually a camouflaged NRC. NPR is virtually a camouflaged NRC. And now this government, Modi government, they should have consulted all the states in India before taking a cabinet decision to go ahead for the NPR, for the National Population Register. Now, in the Supreme Court, this very government has filed an affidavit supporting the Assam-related NRC, which was published in August 2019. Now Narendra Modi is making public statements, and here in Assam, some ministers of BJP are making public statements tantamounting to virtually nullifying the Assam-related Assam-centric NRC.
All
that
right.
is number one. Now, if you don't have, merely because you have the numbers in the parliament, you must not override the decisions and consultation process.
I got your sense. I got the sense.
Government.
Yes,
After
Mr. Odubobra. Yeah.
No, just 1 minute, just 1 minute. After all, who will implement? It is the state machineries of all respective states which are going to implement, whether it is an NRC preparation or whether it is an NPR preparation. Many states have come out openly, like Mamata Banerjee. She said, in West Bengal, no NRC. That day, even in Bihar, it said, no NRC. So therefore, until and unless this Modi government consults all the
consultations, you are emphasizing on consultations. Very important point made by Odubobra there. I'll have to go for a break.
Definitely.
But before that, Mr. G.K. Pillai, we have seen the movement nationwide against CAA, and now suddenly the government is talking of NPR. NPR was first, came into existence in 2010-11. Now apparently, it will ask people questions like the date and place of birth of parents, etc. Will the NPR also serve as a citizenship list? Because the government of India has said no. What do you think?
See, one is not sure, because earlier the questions that were asked in the NPR didn't have any of these, because Aadhaar was not there. Nobody asked of date of birth and so on, place of birth and so on. So we will have to wait and see in the updated Aadhaar which this government is planning to bring out. And I heard the Union Home Minister talk about an app, and each individual person who is within India has to fill up on the app itself online and submit the data. So we'll have to see what are all the columns and what are all the data that are being called for in this app to really find out whether is it a halfway house to the NRC or is it just an NPR. So we'll have to wait and see till the app and its details of what information is being called for in the app comes out to really take a view whether this is a backdoor entry for the NRC.
Okay, we have to wait and watch what are the real, how it unfolds actually in the days ahead. We'll go for a short break. Don't go away. I'll be right back after this very short commercial. Welcome back. Dr. Akhil Ranjan Datta, you know, what is a valid document? A lot of people are asking, what is a valid document? Is it the politics of citizenship panning out, or what is going on? Is it just politics, or is it an attempt at making list after list? What is the reality, you think, in your view?
So for that, Wasbir, let me give you the larger political picture. You know, what is the value of a citizenship if the social security of the citizens are not being protected? If you look at the politics of the country, not only during the NDA period, for the whole last maybe 20 years, 25 years, the government's attempt has been to bring about a surveillance over the citizens. You know, it has become, all these have become instruments of surveillance. You want to ensure who is a citizen or who is not a citizen. But the point is, why do you need what is the very substantive value of the citizen? The substantive value of the citizens will be marked by your health status, your food status, your educational status, and so on and so forth. All of we know that some of the important documents, even being prepared by the government, for example, consumer index, government, many times refuses to release those data. Now, what the government, look at the Aadhaar, look at the NRC, look at the census, look at all, and now NPR. The government's attempt has been to, bring about a surveillance over the very entity of the people. But that doesn't have any linkage with a very substantive value of the citizenship.
Okay.
So
strong words
my
there.
concern is why the government has been doing it.
Very strong word. Dr. Arambam Noni. Dr. Arambam Noni.
Yes, please.
Have you heard Dr. Akhil Ranjan Datta? Strong words. He thinks this is attempts at surveillance, but is it necessary to look at every government initiative as a coercive attempt?
I think I would like to say that it's not exactly, to me, it doesn't look like an attempt of surveillance, but it looks like to me more of a politics of citizenship, number one. Second, I would like to say that, for instance, Assam has been excluded from this proposed NPR proposal, which is coming up next year, April 1st, 2020 to 31st September 2020. Now the point for this region is that why is Assam not going to be in the process of NPR? I don't think it is just because Assam had already NRC. I see that Assam has been excluded, and it has to be excluded from NPR mainly because of this 25th March 1971 deadline, which is a very integral part of Assam NRC. If you look at NPR, which is going to come up in 2020, it has no base year. If there is not going to be any base year, I think the same question is going to come for many states in the northeastern region where there are
very important points. Very important points. Arambam,
just let me complete this point. Let me complete this point. Let me complete this point.
Yeah.
No. Let me. Please give some more time.
Quickly. Yes.
See, if you look at, if you see Dimapur, the base year is 1979, and in Manipur, the ILP has already been extended. In the case of Manipur, I think the government of India has to understand that the state government is going to decide on a particular date and a year on which the citizenship question is going to be engaged with.
Okay.
Now, if there is a question of NRC in Assam, I think there is also a question of ILP and a base year in states like Manipur.
Okay. You have made your point. Let me come to Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, why is Assam not having the NPR? Whether you like the NPR or not is a different question. Now, the government has said that it is because Assam already had the NRC. But has the government of Assam not rejected the NRC? That is one point, one question. And secondly, is it because, if National Population Register is a document for usual residents of the country, it is a register of the usual residents of the country who has resided in a particular place for 6 months, or who is going to reside in that place for 6 months. Now, if the NPR is listed in Assam, is there a fear that illegal migrants might also list their names, and then they might claim to citizenship will be easier? Do you think it is some of the reasons why Assam has been excluded from the NPR, proposed NPR?
No, No, the real reason is as NPR is actually meant for NRC and Assam has already done the NRC. So for Assam, NPR is not needed. Places where NRC is not done, there NPR is needed. Now NPR itself is not a kind of a strong law. It rather is in conflict with the constitution. As I said, it is in conflict with Article 326. NPR is guided by only a set of rules, while census is guided by Census Act of 1948. NPR is not census. So what is the legal status of NPR? The legal status of NPR itself is ambivalent. And NPR leads to NRIC, while ministry is denying that they will do any NRIC out of NPR. Then what for is this NPR? NPR is meant for a certain kind of surveillance.
Yes, Prasenjit,
and NPR has no direction in it.
Right. Hold your thoughts. You know, in 2014, I think it was in the month of July, Union Minister of State for Home, then Union Minister of Kiren Rijiju had stated in Parliament that NPR and NRIC will lead to NRIC, National Register of Indian Citizens. But now, Burhan, why are people finding it so difficult to accept when the Home Minister of this country is saying that NRC and NPR and NRC are not going to be linked? Because now Dr. Prasenjit Biswas said, oh, there is no NPR in Assam because NRC has already been made because NPR will lead to NRC. This exercise is already over in Assam, so is it as simple as that, or should we wait and watch and allow the government to actually come up with more, clarify the matter a little more?
As far as the people of this country is concerned, they are totally confused because of the contradictory statement given by various towering figures in Indian politics. Now, on the one hand, we have already discussed how Prime Minister has said one thing, and on the other hand, Home Minister is saying some other thing. Now, as far as this NPR is concerned, we have to understand this fact that both NPR and NRC, they are emanating from the same act. They are emanating from the same rule of 2003. And as far as NPR is concerned, now they are saying that no biometrics will be taken, no documents will be asked for. Then under what basis, on what basis they will update it?
Self-attestment.
Self-attestment is, it will create much more confusion, I am telling you. It will create more confusion, and you just imagine a situation if people start giving wrong information about their own name, about their birth of place, about their all details. If they are starting giving wrong information, then if only on the basis of self-statement.
Burhan, the NPR is a register of the usual residents of the country. Now, who is a usual resident?
As far as
a usual resident is defined for the purpose of the NPR as a person who has resided in a local area for the past 6 months or more, or a person who intends to reside in an area for the next 6 months. Simple.
So therefore,
you don't have to be a citizen.
Yes,
you don't have to be a citizen.
Therefore, that means that it will include both the citizen as well as non-citizen.
Possible non-citizens.
Yes, because it is very clear. 6 months is not our cut-off.
Therefore, the government will argue that all this, Mr. Arup Barbara, therefore, the government will argue if it is a document where both citizens and non-citizens can be listed, just as citizen, no documents are necessary, no biometrics is necessary. Therefore, there is no need to be apprehensive that the NPR is going to transform into an NRC in the long run. Why should anyone be apprehensive then?
May I add one more thing on this? May I add very quickly one thing?
Yes.
Yes. As far as this 6 months...
to reply, please?
Yes.
Just adding to my question.
Sir, one more thing.
Adding to my question.
Yes, 6 month definition is given, but at the end of the day, they are having different column saying that the date of birth, the place of birth. In fact, now they are asking the details of their passport, Aadhaar card, all these details they are asking. So therefore, only 6 month criteria is only a kind of diluting effect. End of the day, they have to give all the details.
You have to list out the form, but you don't have to submit any documents as proof of what you have written, because that will be taken as correct. Mr. Arup Barbara, if that is the case, if the NPR, why is this fuss about the NPR? Because the NPR is a document of people who may be citizens, who may not be citizens. So then how can NPR transform into an NRC in the long run? Why should the fear be? This is the argument of the government.
Yeah, actually which head counting the government is going for? What reality GOI is up to? If you are creating a data bank, you have already had it through mandatory Aadhaar with all biometrics and detailed particulars of every Indian citizen. In fact, every Indian resident. Then It is a mandatory Aadhaar card. You already have the data for the entire country. Now, what makes you go for another data bank in a different mode? After all, the entire economy of the country is in a dire stress. Entire economy is in a dire stress. If you are really going for a head counting, all right, the census 2021 will be suffice. If you are really going for a head counting and counting of residents, every house, head counting, and every language who speaks what. That is the data. Now, just 1 minute. Now the truth is, Modi government, if it really wants a head counting, then as a sovereign power, the basic responsibility and prime responsibility of the Modi government is to go for the head counting of the illegally residing foreigners here.
Okay, that is a very interesting point. Do the head count of the illegal migrants, not the citizens. That is a very interesting perspective by Mr. Arup Barbara, senior advocate. Now, Sutimala Dwara, what do you make of this as a citizen of this country? Are you worried that you will want the ordinary people, the poor people, particularly? You see, at the end of the day, it is the poor and the disadvantaged who are always short of documents. Now, if you ask for more documents, of course, NPR, the government has clarified that there will be no documents, but you'll just have to say it. So what do you think is going to happen? What are the possibilities that you see? You have already witnessed how Assam, Assam had carried out the NRC exercise.
Well, the government is asking for one, seeking. It seems that the government is seeking one after the other some kind of identity. But whatever it is, it must be the same for all over India, I think.
Right.
Because one part of India, you have one kind of identity. The other part of India, you have another kind of identity. So what, if you are considered to be a nation as a whole, everyone should have one identity. Previously it was, people were very simple. They thought, I have got my ration card, so I'm citizen. And then it came to the voter's card, it came to Aadhaar, and then it has passport which had everything in it. So one after the other.
Transformation from the ration card to the voter card to the Aadhaar card.
So one after the other, as if the government is seeking and continuously. I think you need a lot of brainstorming to do, and also consultation and come up to one particular, what actually is it?
Mr. G.K. Pillai, how many databases do you really need? And I'm coming back to my question which I asked a little while ago. What is the ultimate document to prove one's citizenship in our country?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there are far too many. Got the voter's ID, which means that you are a citizen if you are the assembly and other elections. You've got the passport, which also says that you are a citizen. Aadhaar, of course, is not a proof of citizenship. Therefore, government will have to finally take a call on what is the final one document which will prove your citizenship. And I think it is much easier for the government to do it by exception. That is, people who got a passport, automatically citizens of India. People who have got a voter's ID, you should treat them as citizens of India, and then say that is one document which is proof of citizenship, rather than have any number of documents and ask for different basis, because it's always better to find no country really proves citizenship by doing an exercise for the entire population. They do it only for those who are, inverted commas, illegal migrants.
Yes, I think
that is possible to find out through a much easier method than doing this entire exercise for 130 crore people.
That is what senior advocate Arup Barbara, who is on the panel, has said. Now, Mr. G.K. Pillai, there is also the question of the national identity card. There is also some talk somewhere that the Indian government is going to issue every citizen an identity card. But what about the passport? Isn't it the ultimate proof? But yes, not many people, everyone doesn't have a passport. I know that. One is aware of that. But what do you think? What is your take?
Yeah, passport, of course, passport, not too many people in India have passports.
Right.
There are, millions of people, I think hundreds of millions of people, especially in rural areas and in the tribal areas, who don't have passport, because at the moment, they are not even thinking of perhaps even leaving their village. They're not thinking of going out of the country. So, if you look at only passport, then only a very limited number of people would be treated as Indian citizens. The voters ID card, which is given by virtue of some element of verification, could be one proof that if you have a voter's ID card, then you could be treated as an Indian citizen.
Okay.
So I think the government will really have to take a view that which is the document or one or two documents which will prove that you are an Indian citizen.
Okay.
And those who don't have either of these can then come and apply for these and become a citizen of India.
Okay, Shrutimala, you want to say something? Yes, very quickly.
The problem here is that, the passport and the voter's ID may not be valid. Let me tell you here a case in Mumbai very recently in December. Mohammed Mullar and Saiful. So they were in Bombay and they were taken because of their language, and they were thought to be immigrants. And when they were booked, they said, that was in 2017, they said that they had come through illegal migrants. But when they were produced at the court in December, they produced the voter's ID and the passport. So, the court had to equip them. So these are cases, yes.
This is a case of people acquiring valid documents through fraudulent means. So but that will always be there. I think that is not peculiar to India. That will be there in every country.
No, so that is why the problem is there should be something where there are no loopholes. When you are providing someone with the identity a passport, there should not be.
Aadhaar cards can be, Rohingyas have been purchasing Aadhaar cards for 1,500 rupees. So that is the problem with the system.
That's a different debate. And the loopholes,
That's a different debate. Let's not go into that. I have very little time. Dr. Akhil Ranjan Datta, what is the road ahead now? How should things shape up according to you? What is your suggestions?
No, my suggestion is that NPR could be a very important document provided you are trying to look at the migration of the population.
Yeah.
Now, 6 months before and 6 months after. If you are trying to address the issue of migration, relating it to the issues of social security, livelihood security, employment opportunities, and so on and so forth, that could be a very important document. But looking at the very framework or the format of the NPR, I don't feel that these are related to any of those issues. On the other hand, remember that NPR and also census,
very quickly,
next census, 2021 census, will also be carried almost together. Now, cannot census capture the kind of issues or kind of information being attempted to be captured by NPR, and both NPR and also census
so the
will
basic
also
point
be
you are making is that too many duplication
under the supervision of
yes,
Register
we
General.
get the sense. We got the sense. You are basically talking about
duplication.
the need to avoid.
Yes.
Akhil Ranjan Datta, you are basically talking about the need to avoid duplications. I'm running short of time. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, your concluding remarks.
Yeah. My concluding remark is that Article 326 clearly defines who is a citizen, one who is a voter is a citizen. Now, if somebody says voter's identity card is collected in a fraudulent manner, that could be investigated. But by that, Article 326 should not be subverted by subsidiary rules such as Rules 2003. Rules 2003 doesn't have the same constitutional status as Article 326.
Okay. Dr. Arambam Noni, your final words.
Yeah, I just want to say that I just want to put two things here. First, if you look at the objective of NPR, it says that it is going to streamline the welfare mechanisms of the government, which means that the government of India in future is going to use NPR database as a provision to provide welfare mechanisms. If that is the ground, then I think there's no point of saying that NPR is not going to be a valid document. Therefore, I just want to add one more point, that NPR, of course, is going to be a stepping stone towards some kind of a national citizenship register. But the point, however, is that I think Mr. Pillai had just said that probably, election identity card probably could be one of the identity cards to decide one's citizenship. I think, yes, particularly he has talked about voters' ID card. Voters' ID card.
All right.
I think one has to be very clear. In the case of the northeastern India, I think this voter ID card has never been able to signify who is a real citizen of the country, because there are a lot of questions. For example, in 2004,
all right.
In 2004,
let's be very specific and short. I'm running short of time, Arambam.
So,
I have to give.
Just to conclude. The politics is of citizenship. There is no confusion about it.
Okay, okay. Mr. Arup Barbara, your final take?
Actually, in a country like India, where many people, lakhs and lakhs of people have to stand in a queue for a mamuli gas cylinder, simply gas cylinder, cooking gas cylinder. The people, ordinary people, it is the ordinary people and the people belonging to the poor economic background who suffer most. They should not be subjected to such type of inclusive proceedings like NRC every time, voters list every time, and this PRC, population register. This should not be done. They are not only subjected to harassment, they are also imparted with a fear psychosis. Just 1 minute, I am finishing. Last sentence.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Mr. Arup Barbara. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to cut you off because only for lack of time. My final question to you before I come to my other panelists, I'm running absolutely short of time. Mr. G.K. Pillai, do you think the cost-benefit analysis of the CAA for the government, do you think has it not been for CAA, people would not have raised questions on issues like NPR? Mr. G.K. Pillai.
See, government could have allowed it to have, there are certain concerns. I mean, in the Northeast, the concern is not whether, the Muslims were excluded. The concern was more of any illegal foreigner should not be given citizenship because that was affecting the, the identity and the culture of the local people. So there is need for a debate because you did the entire exercise of NRC in Assam primarily to
all right. Thank you,
those
Mr. G.K. Pillai. Need for a debate.
Then,
that is the point which G.K. Pillai is making. But now, Burhan, what is your final take very quickly?
Yes. We have various documents in the form of Aadhaar card, voter list, driving license, ration card, etc. So therefore, I would like to say that instead of going for NPR or NRC, government should collect the data, collate it and synchronize it from all these various documents which are already in existence and give a kind of national identity card from the data derived from that. It's very simple otherwise. But they are complicated.
Collect the existing data and come up with a national identity card. Very simple suggestion from Burhan. Finally, are you a worried person or not today, Dr. Sotimala Dwara?
Yes, because we need one identity for all of us, and that should be done at the cost of the country.
Absolutely, one identity for everybody, and there should be no politics in it, not at the cost of the peace and tranquility in the country. Yes. On that note, I end this edition of Notice Tonight. I thank my panelists for participating in this very engaging way on a very sensitive issue that has hogged the limelight for several weeks across the country now. And thank all my viewers for watching it. Good night and goodbye.
Northeast Tonight, brought to you by Oil India Limited, conquering newer horizons.